Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 129 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I am your host, Mark Harris, and I've kind of got an interesting show for you all today, this weekend, right before the 4th of July. Um, it's going to be more of a retrospective because I saw some interesting things that came out this week, and I kind of want to turn back the clock and ask a question about something ASU should do. The college football 26 video game rankings have been released, and ASU is pretty high up there, really high in one category, a little bit lower than some think in another category, but also still fairly high. And then Graham Rossini made some comments. Baseball continues to add to its transfer portal haul, and ASU basketball picks up a international commit as well. So a little bit of everything here in the show. Yeah, so it should be not a super long show, but kind of touching on a few different things. Before we get started, please like and subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice, and as always, please follow College Huddle. A lot of great shows on there, including the My Dogs Are Barking podcast, which is a Mississippi State show. I joined that show probably on Monday earlier this week to talk about ASU's upcoming game in Starkville. Good to kind of talk out that and talk about how things could possibly go for ASU. This was posted on their page on June 20th. I retweeted it on my page. Let me show. It's the My Dogs Are Barking podcast at my DAWGS POD on Twitter. So check them out. It was a good conversation. And I love interacting with other shows. I think it's a good way to talk about the season, learn what's going on, and all that. So going to share the screen to show that one right there. Yeah. So there's my fresh out of the shower hair on the My Dogs Are Barking podcast. This was on the 20th, probably about 20-minute conversation. And please go listen and support that show. It's a good show about Mississippi State. All right. Now that we have all that out of the way, time to get into the meat of this show. Should ASU football claim the 1975 national championship? This has been a topic of conversation that's kind of been simmering in ASU sports Twitter probably for a while, but it's kind of picked up in these last few months. And a lot of people, like the 1996 team gets talked about so much because much more people were alive and remember that team. It was 30 years ago. If you're probably 35 and older and paid attention to ASU, you at least have some recollection of that team. If you're 40 plus, you definitely do. So it has Jake Plummer, has the Rose Bowl against Ohio State, and all that. There's a ton that goes into the 96 team. And for a while, up until this past season, it was the last team to really, really compete at a high level with respect to the Todd Graham teams. It was to remember it as a team that had they, closed out Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, they would have won the national championship. They would have finished the regular season undefeated. They would have been at least a co-national championship in the 1996 season. But the 1996 team is not the only ASU team that has flirted with winning a national championship. It is not. And I'm not talking about the 1986 team that won the Rose Bowl, won the Pac-12. I think they finished fourth overall. The 1972 team finished second in the AP poll, or I'm sorry, not 1972. The 1975 Arizona State Sun Devils finished second in the AP poll and second in the coaches poll to the Oklahoma Sooners. ASU that year finished the entire season 12-0. They defeated Washington in Sun Devil Stadium 35-12. They then went on the road and beat TCU 33-27. to 10, and then they hosted BYU in week 3, beat them 20-0. From there, they completed the rest of their conference schedule in the WAC, culminating with a 24-21 win over then number 12 Arizona. Nice territorial cup win there at Sun Devil Stadium. They also, they beat Pacific. They had a few close calls. They beat New Mexico 16-10 on the road in Albuquerque, and they barely beat Wyoming 21-20 in Sun Devil Stadium too. So that would have been a horrible loss. It was avoided. They finished the year beating number 7 Nebraska 17-14 in the Fiesta Bowl, clinching themselves to be the only undefeated team that season. They finished, but Oklahoma, who lost one game in the Big 8 schedule, because I looked all this up, they lost to a 7-5 Kansas team 23-3, which is a very weird result, but that's what happened. But then they went on to beat Nebraska. They blew them out, in fairness to Oklahoma, in their final regular season game of the year, and then beat a top 10 ranked Michigan team in the Orange Bowl. So Oklahoma, I'm not here to dispute Oklahoma's claim as a national championship team in 1975. But what I am here to say is ASU has a legitimate case to claim at least a co-championship for the 1975 football season. And when you look at the roster of that team, some of the high-profile guys, when you look at, again, you just compare them to Oklahoma, an Oklahoma team that lost a game to Kansas. You consider the fact that they both beat Nebraska, which was a top 10 team. That was Nebraska's only 2 losses of the year were to Oklahoma and ASU. And when you consider some of the external recognition that ASU got, and I'll get into that in a sec, it's not the craziest thing to say. There are real, actual results on the field and external validation that lead you to think, okay, ASU could actually claim this, and there's some merit to it, right? So a lot of what sparked this is I'm going to pull up the tweet right here. For the podcast listeners, I'm pulling up a tweet from Jordan Ham at Sports 360 AZ. Just a newsy thing that he shared on his X account on Thursday. So this is the tweet. The 1975 ASU football team will be inducted to the Sun Devil Athletics Hall of Fame this fall. Jeff Ayers is the other public inductee that has been announced so far. So that's a pretty good, group for ASU. And then you have, a few comments, but one guy, it would be a good time to finally claim on our national title recognitions. You quote tweet it, or view quotes is what I'm going to do. And I love my slow computer. Time to put the banner up from our listener, Will Jasper. And then Dan Trujillo makes the whole graphic. 1975 national champions, ASU football. 223 likes on that. So, like I said, the ASU fan community is starting to really get behind the idea of claiming the 1975 national championship. And I believe that they will recognize that team on October 18th when they host Texas Tech. I saw that somewhere, but maybe I didn't notice that. Great audio here. Okay, I can't find that, but I think I saw that it's going to be on October 18th when they host Texas Tech. They're going to officially induct the 1975 team into the Sun Devil Hall of Fame. Many of the individual players are already in the ASU Hall of Fame, which I think, first of all, it's a great, no matter what you think about the national championship stuff, like it's great for them to be honored. I mean, ASU beating Nebraska in 1975 was such a huge, arguably the biggest win, an individual win for ASU in its history. And it really put them on the map. So it's great to see. It should be a great, in between quarter celebration thing. And those guys deserve their recognition. I know it's 50 years ago, but it's at least a top 3 season in ASU football history, and arguably the best season in ASU football history. So on to the national championship claim. I mentioned their season. They are undefeated. They're 12-0. They have, like I said, they have wins over Washington, TCU, and BYU in this stretch. And then obviously Arizona and then Nebraska at the end of the year. The Nebraska game, I'm going to go over it quickly. ASU takes a 3-0 lead. ASU, it says Mortensen kick, but I believe that it was Danny Cush, the kicker, was actually the kicker in this, not Fred Mortensen. So Wikipedia, you never know. But ASU, okay, that was a different game. Wonderful. In that game, here we go. Danny Cush, 27-yard field goal. Nebraska, Monte Anthony, 1-yard run, 33-yard field goal from Cush. So ASU trails 7-6 at halftime. Third quarter, Anthony, Nebraska, 4-yard run. So Nebraska's up 14-6. Then John Jefferson receives a touchdown pass, 10-yard touchdown pass from backup Fred Mortensen. And then they go for 2. They get it to Larry Mucker, wide receiver, who ended up playing 4 years in the NFL with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. John Jefferson, we'll get to, had a very good NFL career. And then at the end, Danny Cush makes a 29-yard field goal to win. After this game, ASU moves up to number 2 in the AP and coaches poll. But interestingly, and this is where the national championship claim, I think, holds its most weight. Interestingly, after moving up to number 2 in the coaches and AP poll, they move up to number 1 in the Sporting News poll. And according to the National Championship Foundation, which retroactively selected football national championships from 1869 to 1979, they also picked ASU. So that's 2 outside voices, I'll say outside services, that recognized the 1975 ASU football team as national champions. Most importantly, Sporting News. And I found it interesting when ASU shared the Hall of Fame post on Sun Devil Athletics, which I've pulled up now, the Instagram post. They have pictures, they have Frank Cush, they have team picture, they have some pictures in the game, holding up the helmets, all that. 2025 Sun Devil Hall of Fame inductee, 12-0 record, 1975 Fiesta Bowl champions, Sporting News national champion. I think it is very interesting that post included the Sporting News national champion in there. This is not something, I don't think ASU has really formally acknowledged that much. And I think that them formally acknowledging it is a pretty interesting step, because I've definitely seen some fans kind of tweet at Graham Rossini, hey, we should claim the 1975 national championship. This post doesn't go out without Rossini looking at it and saying, hey, 1975, Sporting News national championship included. You have a fan who's saying, let's claim that natty. So this is kind of, like I said, it's been bubbling under the surface. And obviously, like I've said, it's interesting that they're recognizing the Sporting News claim. And, I'm not going to sit here and act like the Sporting News poll is equivalent to the AP poll or the coaches poll. It's not, it's not, but it's still it's still something, right? And so now that I talk about it, I did a poll on the Stomp the Bus account. 80-20 says ASU should claim the 1975 national championship. I think ASU should do it. I think they should claim it. But this kind of goes against what I'm saying. They should claim it, but they shouldn't make like a big hubbub about it, or if they are going to claim it after this upcoming season. Because there's just something about claiming a national championship from 50 years ago. Let this season play out before you do that, and don't make a huge big deal out of it. Just maybe like a press release on a busy week or whatever of sports content, and be like, hey, like, we're claiming the 1975 national championship. We went 12-0. We beat Nebraska. The Sporting News and the the National Championship Foundation, primarily the Sporting News, but it already awarded us that moniker. And so, you know what? We're taking it. And it wouldn't be the least, like, there are teams with worse cases who have claimed national championships before. Now, most of those are kind of 1950s, 1960s era. So it's a whole different ball, or what bag of worms, the phrase. Like, it's just a whole different deal. I mean, you don't have integration yet. You have like World War II affecting things. So it's a different thing. But BYU's 1984 national championship, like, it counts, but it's among the most flimsy claims of a national championship. Colorado in 1991, it counts. Okay. It counts if there's any Buffalo fans watching, but they also won a game that year on a 5th down. You can look up 5th down, Colorado, Missouri. Did I say 1990 or 1991? It's 1990. Like, that's that's a game they otherwise would have lost. They got an extra down because the refs just screwed up in real time. So, like, it counts. Like, it counts in the official scoring of the game. Like, it counts, but subjectively, like, that's a reason to ding them. The game they beat Notre Dame, and I believe the Orange Bowl, there was a clipping call on a punt return that didn't count. Some could say that was, a bad call there and changed the outcome of who was going to win the national championship. I would focus on that one second. Secondarily, I would primarily focus on the 5th down game versus Missouri for that Colorado team. And so anyway, but my point with that is to say, like, pre-BCS, pre-college, pre-whatever, 1998, like, you have half national or split national champions. You have teams that claim them. And there are some claims out there that are a lot less like rock solid than other claims. And I highlight BYU and Colorado, not necessarily because they're in our conference. I'm sure there are some other claims out there that happened in the 70s and 80s that I'm not thinking of. But those are just kind of the two that come to mind. So that's all that is to say, like, if ASU claimed a national championship in which they went 12-0, they obviously won their conference. They beat a top 10 Nebraska team in the Fiesta Bowl. Yes, it was at their own stadium. I get it. Like, there are things that went ASU's way that year. Like, there's no doubt about that. But again, it happened, right? It happened. The game happened, and ASU won. And the Sporting News, like ASU says on its Instagram post, the social post that went out, Twitter, I'm sure it went on Facebook, Sporting News national champion, like, there's reason to claim it. So, and another thing I'd want to point out is there are people who, I'm going to share the Wikipedia page for this. There will be people who, if ASU were to do this, people would absolutely make fun and say, oh, like, they're claiming, this is because they can't win one in reality, which, like, yeah, probably true. Like, it's probably needs to be so many things that happen for ASU to actually win a national championship in this current version of college football. But that ultimately, like, that's not an actual argument against it. Like, it's just saying it's lame. And opposing fan bases would make fun of ASU if they did this. Like, no doubt about it. They'd say, "Oh, like you're coming back to say that you won it when you didn't actually." And that holds a little bit of weight. I'm not going to sit here and completely downplay that argument, but if you're basing it off like the reason I highlighted the Sporting News thing, like Sporting News is still around, it's still a news service, and it was a bigger deal back in the 1970s as well. It was kind of lesser tier to Sports Illustrated, but it was still a big deal, and it's not the craziest thing. Let me put it that way. I've said that before, but another point that I want to make here is a lot of times when these, because ASU was was a WAC team, right? They say, oh, they didn't play the level of competition, which there is some truth to that. They played New Mexico and Wyoming that year, and like they played at Colorado State. Utah wasn't the program it is now. Idaho, although that was a non-conference game, but I mean they also played again. They played Washington, TCU, and so they did have a good out of conference schedule. And I would also say, this team, in terms of the players it actually had on the field, is much more talented than your average Mountain West or Boise State of the past 20 years. So this doesn't do a good job of including all this, but I think it's just a window into how talented that team actually was. You have Mike Haynes on that team. He was the 5th overall pick, Super Bowl champion. I'm looking at all 9-time Pro Bowl, 8-time All-Pro. He is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So you had a Hall of Fame player on that team. You have another first-round pick, 2 first-round picks. Unfortunately, in Larry Gordon, a linebacker, unfortunately passed away due to heart failure in 1983, which is a really sad story. But he was another first-round pick. You have this guy, Al Harris, freshman at the time, played 10 years in the NFL, first-round pick in 1979. So he was on the team a bit longer. But that's 3 first-round picks right there. This team also had – this Wikipedia page leaves a lot to be desired. But another guy they had was John Jefferson, who is the Chargers and Packers wide receiver. I'm not going to pull up his Wikipedia page here, but I have it on my phone. John Jefferson, Arizona State, 1974 to 77. He caught a touchdown in the Fiesta Bowl that beat Nebraska. Let's look at this. 2-time first-team All-Pro, 1979-1980. Second-team All-Pro, 1978 as a rookie. 4-time Pro Bowler, 78 to 80, and then 82. NFL receiving yards leader, 1980. 2-time NFL receiving touchdowns leader, 78 and 80. All-rookie team, 1978. San Diego Chargers 50th anniversary team. And then consensus All-American, 1977. College Football Hall of Fame. So this dude was a certified, and he was the 14th overall pick in the 1978 draft. He was picked in the first round with the 14th pick by the Chargers. So I highlight those players, and there's a few guys I've forgotten, right? The guy, Larry Mucker, right, who caught the 2-point conversion in that Fiesta Bowl game. He was also an NFL player. Now he's, picked in the 9th round, but he played 4 years in the NFL. It's still a good, good career. I don't bring him up first. I bring up, the first-round picks and the Hall of Famer and the multiple-time All-Pro and John Jefferson. So, like, the reason I bring those guys up is to say, like, this wasn't just a bunch of tryhards out there. It wasn't just a bunch of guys, like, who barely won, like, who had no NFL future at all. Like, no, like, this is one of the most talented ASU teams ever, probably, because it at least had 4 future first-round picks on it and maybe more, right? There could be some guys that 50 years ago, like, it's not easy to find all this stuff. But that signifies that this team was actually a lot more talented than its WAC affiliation would lead the average fan to believe. So I think that's another feather in the cap of actually claiming that national championship, along with the fact that, again, it was recognized by two different services. And so I would just say, like, I think ASU should do this at some point. Now, right, like, I think I should find out when. I should have looked up exactly when, but I think it's the Texas Tech game. It should not be announced this season. I'm going to repeat myself on that. It should not be announced this season. It should, if they're going to do it, they should probably announce it either sometime in July of 25 and kind of get it out of the way, or they should just do it in the off season after the 2025 season in 2026. Because I think if you make a huge deal out of it, then it comes back to bite you. You know, then it becomes like, oh, like they're just retroactively doing this. They weren't crowned at the time, all this. But if you kind of just like, you don't make a huge deal out of it, but you still officially announce it, right? And I think another thing would be like, you don't have to make a big announcement about putting the 1975 Sporting News national champion somewhere on your, stadium, right? But it's still up there. And eventually people forget about this stuff, And so all this is to say that in some point, I would say in the next year, ASU should claim the 1975 football championship. Would it change who ASU is as a program overall? No, it wouldn't. Like it wouldn't meaningfully change anything about the history of ASU football. But it would be cool to like you can still call yourself a national champion, and it's not the craziest thing to say. There's enough evidence between the actual record and the results on the field in 1975, the fact that you're saying on your own Instagram account, right? So like maybe this is a moot point from the beginning, because one could argue, I'm going to reshare the Instagram post again. One could argue that if you are including 1975, if you're including Sporting News national champion in the official post about the 1975 ASU football team, then one could argue that you already are claiming the 1975 national championship by including the fact that Sporting News had you winning it all that year. So I don't personally think that including the fact that Sporting News put you as the national champion means that ASU is officially claiming it, but I think it's definitely shifting in that direction, right? So, and again, this is like Sporting News is a third party. This was not like, in some ways, the Sporting News thing is all ASU really needs to claim the national championship. And again, they were the only undefeated team in 1975 as well. And when you pair that again you beat Nebraska in the bowl game. You didn't beat some random 4-loss team that played in the Fiesta Bowl. No, you beat Nebraska, who was in the Big 8, and it also lost to Oklahoma, but Oklahoma lost to a 7-5 Kansas team. So that does throw a wrench in it. And the point, this is more of a soft point, I guess, but the fact that you have multiple all-pro players on the team, you have at least 4 first-round picks, that adds a lot of legitimacy to it. Like it shows that it was a team that actually had talent, a team that had 2 first-round picks in that upcoming recent draft. I don't think the 96 team had anything like that, and so I think there's a real case to be made. And I think ASU should do it. But if they do claim the national championship, there has to be some tact that goes into it. They can't just – I don't think they should just make like a big hubbub about it. I think you claim it, and then you just let whatever – because you will get criticized for it. Like you will. But I think if people look into that season, they may not agree with the idea that ASU should be the 1975 – should claim the 1975 national championship, but they could have. I would say that a lot of people would at least recognize that there are actual, real, tangible things that ASU can cling to and say, hey, like this happened. The Sporting News awarded us this award already, and we're going to claim it. So that's what I think ASU should do. But I think they should not claim it during the season. I think you claim it during the season and just whatever, sports gods, bad luck, bad juju, whatever you want to call it. Like, I think that just throws a wrench into everything. And so I think you keep it out of the individual 2025 season, but you should do it at some point because I think that there's enough tangible things there to actually claim it. I also want to, I'm not going to read through this entire article on the show, but I will link to it in the official post or in the replies to the post. And this is a website called Tip Top 25. And a lot of what it does is it goes through previous national championship claims and kind of susses them out, goes through every team. And it does that for the 1975 season. And basically its final conclusion. So this is what the guy writes. However, while my pick would be Oklahoma, I do think there's just enough merit to ASU's case that they are also a valid choice for number one and should be considered co-MNC with Oklahoma. Because Oklahoma's one loss was just too ugly in too many ways to ignore. They lost by an average team, by 21 ranked team, 23-3. Home game happened late in the season. ASU may have played a weaker schedule, but they were unbeaten. They defeated number 3 Nebraska, which is a national championship level season. I'll read the final line too. So ASU is the only team from the WAC conference, in my opinion, that ever merited a men's national championship. I don't know what the M stands for, but I'm going to say men's. Brigham Young may have been the consensus choice in 1984, but I do not recognize that team as the champion myself. And this much there can be no debating. BYU 84 didn't come close to accomplishing as much as ASU 75 did. Start with the fact that BYU 84 didn't play a single ranked opponent. Anyway, it may be a few decades late, but congrats to ASU and congrats to the National Championship Foundation, which got this MNC selection right. So I think the guy's Jim, who runs Tip Top 25. And again, this is just one guy's opinion. It's just a site, but he goes through all the data you can see here between, Oklahoma, Arizona State, Ohio State. And his whole thing doesn't really discredit Oklahoma. None of this conversation is about discrediting 1975 Oklahoma. It's more about saying, hey, like, this is a time when split national champions happened, and ASU has a real case. And I think when you compare it to the 1984 BYU team that did, like, they have an official, that 84 national championship is official. It's locked in. If you look at the actual results of the games from 75 ASU, comparing them to 84, like this person did, I agree with his stance that BYU 84 didn't equal what 75 ASU did. And so the fact that BYU already has a national championship claim that's someone considered to be dubious kind of strengthens the idea that ASU should just go ahead and claim the 1975 national championship because there is actual real reason to think that it was better. And again, they finished undefeated. They were awarded national championship by the Sporting News. I'm going to repeat myself. And they had, I don't know who the NFL players on that BYU 84 team. I'll say that right now. I'm sure they had some good players. So I'm not going to sit here, but I'm saying ASU with Mike Haynes, with Al Harris, with Larry Gordon, with John Jefferson, and a few other NFL players as well. Like, they had a legit talented roster. So all of those reasons, I think ASU should claim the 1975 national championship at some point, not during the upcoming football season. I don't think they should do it then, but I think there is a time and place to do it, and a way to go about it that makes you recognized officially as a 1975 national champion, but also doesn't completely make too big of a deal about it, right? Because it is the uncomfortable thing about this is you are claiming this. Why didn't you just do it at the time, or why didn't you do it in 1985 instead of 2025, right? There are things to poke at with it, but overall, I think that the case is strong enough that it can be considered legitimate. All right, off to current topics and not 1975 ASU football. Ideally, the 2025 ASU football team is recognized to be as good as the 1975 team. So we got a post. So, okay, Chris Vanini shared the college football 25, or is it 26? Okay, so this is, I'm sharing it now. I'm going to close out some of the other. Okay. Chris Vanini of The Athletic. Here are the top 25 teams in EA Sports College Football 26. Alabama's number one at 89. It's not showing. I guess I'll click on the picture. ASU comes in 14th with an 85 overall ranking. They are behind Texas Tech at 86, which I love. I love it. There's also news that the Big 12 is getting rid of the preseason poll for the conference. And so another thing that I love, I don't want this mindset of ASU coming into this season with the Big 12 football being considered the clear, far and away number one team. And so far, that's not playing out that way. A lot of the predictive metrics have Kansas State above ASU. You have the EA Sports rankings having Texas Tech ahead of ASU. But ASU is still being recognized in the top 15, right? It's the happy medium there, where if you're Dillingham, you can say they think Texas Tech's better than you. They think Kansas State's better than you. They think Baylor, whomever it may be, they think this team's better than you. If they want to use that, and if you're one of the players, you can be like, okay, this is ridiculous that we're getting ranked behind these teams after we won it. So I really like where ASU ranks in this. I think 85 is pretty fair. Now, when you go into offense and defense, there's a little bit of debate. So, well, on one side, I should say, offense, they have ASU ranked 4th overall, and you could argue tied for first at 91 with Texas, Penn State, and Ohio State. Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, and then ASU all at 91. There's a 2-point drop there for the next 8 teams, starting with Clemson. And, I think it speaks to the fact that they have Jordan Tyson is 94 overall. I believe he's the 4th best player. He's really high up there at 94. And then Sam Levitt, I believe, is a 90 or 91. So those two are really high up. I believe Kanye Udo is like an 88. And I think Shimon Mateer is rated fairly high. I'm sure some of the O-linemen are rated in the mid 80s. So all of that together, and you put this is going to be a really talented offense. And it's not just scheme and, guys making plays. It's legitimate talented players on this ASU offense. Then the defense, which some ASU fans had some beef with on social media. Alabama's up at 96. Texas, Penn State, both at 94. ASU comes in at 84. Far behind Texas Tech at 92. Kansas State comes in at 86 in the Big 12. So this I find interesting, especially after all the reports out of spring ball that the defense looked really good and the defensive line looked really good. Secondary looked good. Only Xavier Alford is rated very highly there. He's a 90. But I think this comes back to the fact that ASU's pass defense had some weak spots last year. BYU game was one of them. There's some stuff early in the season, right? The Kansas game. So there's that. And they didn't get after the quarterback that great last year. And so if ASU really wants to be, whatever, top 15 level defense, then they're going to have to just get more sacks. You can't just pressure the quarterback because sometimes you pressure him and he still makes a play, right? Or he just throws out of bounds and, okay, it's 1st and 10 to 2nd and 10. Like, could have been 2nd and 16 if you actually get the sack, but whatever. Anyway, while I think 23rd is a bit too low, I would probably have him around like probably somewhere in the 86 range. I do think that like overall, and this is what I posted, like if you enter the year with a top 5 offense and a top 25 defense, you're in good shape. The 23rd, like I said, it's a little bit lower than you would like, but I don't know. Like I can't get that upset about it. So I think it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity for this defense to show what it did in spring ball and really kind of continue to gel under Brian Ward and Coach Darren Reynolds, coaching up the defensive line. You have good linebackers. It's an opportunity for Keith Abney and Javen Robinson to shine a corner. Like it's on the table. So overall, like you're coming in as a top 14 team and then top 5 on offense, top 25 on defense. Like this is what this is what we've been asking for, right? Like sometimes you got to pinch yourself and just be like, oh my gosh, like there's a lot of things on paper going well for this team. So, and I get it. As Scully mentioned, they returned 9 starters, but like it's the lack of sacks. That's what's really holding you back. So now you're what, a top 25 or top 14 team in the CFB rankings, which is awesome. And what's great about that is like if kids play the game, like 5 years from now, they'll see like, oh, I get to play with Jordan Tyson, I get to play with Sam Levitt, like that's cool. It's kind of what's cool about that is it kind of sticks. It's at least for the game itself, like it lives on. So happy about that, and I think ASU. Hopefully, those rankings stay the same at the end of the regular season. So, and then also some baseball stuff. ASU picked up infielder, 2 guys from Cal, actually. Infielder Dominic Smaldino, and then also a shortstop, PJ Mutzoritis. PJ Mutzoritis. I'm not going to spell it. It's retweeted on my page. According to this guy, Peter Flaherty III, he's a good defender. And he'd had a decent offensive season with all the guys they brought in on offense. I don't think he'll have to be like the lead guy. So good to, pick up 2 guys from Cal. You get another pitcher from UNLV, Alex Overbay, and then you also get a pitcher, Cole Klecker, from TCU. He's a local kid, I believe went to Hamilton High School. Just great to see ASU baseball just really loading up. You're losing a good chunk of players. Brandon Compton, Isaiah Jackson, all these guys, like going to be tough to replace, but you're bringing in just good additions from lower level schools. And that strategy is a good one in college baseball. Going to touch quick on college basketball before some kind of bigger college basketball stuff mentioned by Graham Rossini. So this was 10 days ago. 20-year-old 6'11" Masamba Diop has committed to ASU. Last season, the 20-year-old averaged 16.3 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 1.6 blocks per game on the Gran Canarias B team, which is in Spain. 6'11", 2005, has strong athleticism, light on his feet, can handle the ball, has NBA tools. So this guy has a chance to be your absolute best player. This guy, honestly, like he probably should really impact winning for ASU basketball. I know that's kind of crazy to say, but you have NBA Draft Point retweet him. Elite pickup for ASU, one of the best remaining under 21 bigs in Europe. Tons of elite tools that can make him a really elite college big man. Massive frame, tested physically, strong athlete. All things you want, I've been really down on the ASU men's basketball program, but I think with a guy like that, he at least adds more, rim defense. He's a good scorer. Like, he's someone who could actually really, really make an impact, and kind of, maybe they're still not a good team, but it makes them kind of he wins them like 2 or 3 games, and all of a sudden they're an average team instead of being a bad team. I don't know, but I like the pickup from Bobby Hurley and co. I don't have the tweet in front of me, but I want to close it out with some things that Graham Rossini said. He mentioned earlier this week at a press conference, kind of talking about the House settlement, talking about just some things going on, that ASU will renovate Desert Financial Arena, but it's going to start May of 26, basically. So this upcoming year, there won't be any big changes, but it will happen. It's going to be next year. I don't love how long it's taking, but I'm glad that there's at least something that's being done. Had to be done eventually. It's just ridiculous how long this whole thing has taken. And he also mentioned that he supports Hurley, but he knows his back is up against the wall. And yeah, I just think it's interesting that it's like there's a clear recognition of Hurley's the kind of, I don't want to say thin ice, but the idea that like this season needs to be a pretty good year for him to continue. And I'd rather Hurley just. It's kind of ridiculous that he's getting another chance this year, honestly, but it's happening, and it's already locked in. So I guess, like I said, I'm glad they added this guy from Spain, and we'll see how it goes. But it's just, if you're Hurley, you don't love the news of, oh yeah, we're renovating the arena on May of 26, not this summer. So this upcoming year, it's still going to be the same crappy Desert Financial Arena. But in the future, when there's a very good chance that you've been let go, yeah, then we'll get the arena refurbished and redone. So that is, I don't know. I'll say this, I'm just glad that it's finally, there's some wheels in motion on it. I think there's a lot of people who think, oh, just go off campus, just do it in Mullet. I think Mullet would be perfectly fine. I know, a little over 5,000 people isn't a great crowd for a basketball arena, but I think it would mean every game would feel intimate, and sure, you're losing some money and some extra seats, but I wouldn't hate it at all. I guess it's better that DFA is finally getting some work done on it. Honestly, that's kind of that's the gist of it from my end. It's just, I've talked about it so much, and it's just just let us know when it's getting fixed. And at least he let us know that, hey, it's going to get fixed, but it's going to be really start in earnest in May of 26. So I think I touched on everything. ASU football, wide receiver, 4-star Nayland Scott committed to Nebraska. I don't, with the kid, it's whatever. Commits, they decommit, and I don't care about that. I think I didn't love the PHNX commentary of oh, well, why would you live in Nebraska when you can live in Tempe? It's I don't that's not how these recruits are thinking, and it's not like Nebraska has nothing to offer, right? They have been a worse program than ASU in recent memory. That is true. But they still likely have more NIL. They are in the Big Ten, which is something when people talk about ASU recruiting being less than ideal, I don't think it gets mentioned enough that ASU is in the Big 12. And if you are in the Big 10 or SEC, you can negatively recruit the Big 12 incredibly easily. And that's just a tough reality for the current state of things. But it also goes back to my kind of recent point that I've had of whatever you do, you need to position yourself the best possible way. So when 2030 happens and the reshuffling happens again, you can join the SEC, you can join the Big 10, or join whatever the main football league is. And you have to do that by making yourself an obvious option to pick. And so I think ASU is on a good track to that. But, this kind of, I think ASU dropped and they're either second or first still in many of the ranking services for the Big 12. And that kind of shows like the Big 12 teams just aren't recruiting that well. And one of the big reasons has to be because of negative recruiting done by the Big 10 and the SEC. So kind of a weird note to end this show on, but wanted to touch on that. I don't really talk a bunch of recruiting for this reason. Like guys commit and they leave. It's and I don't really blame them. I don't have like you committed, so you should, it's like, yeah, in a perfect world, if a high schooler committed, then they would stay, but that's just not how it works. And so that's why I don't make a big deal about recruiting rankings in April or whatever when we do well. I know that some shows have daily shows, and I mean, I think it's been, I don't know, 10 days since I last recorded. So it's easy for me to be like, oh, like, you shouldn't talk about recruiting as much, but you got to talk about something in these off-season months. So I get it, but I think there's a naivete among some of our media that, we have a top 10 recruiting class on April 15th. And it's like, okay, that's great. Like, it's better to start out well and fall down in the rankings than like have to play catch up. Like, it is better than the alternative, but don't sit here and be like, like, it's going to stick. It's like, no, it's not going to stick. Like, you have to look at the teams, the blue bloods that are below you, and they're going to pick up recruits. So anyway, just to wrap this up, I think ASU should claim the 1975 national championship. They should do it in a tactful way that there's no reason to make a huge media thing about it, which I don't think ASU would do, but there's no reason to make some big deal out of it because, like, you claim it no matter what. It's going to be claimed whether you send out a press release or make some huge social campaign for it, right? Like, either way, it will still be claimed. You have the Sporting News ranking to back it up and the undefeated season to back it up. So I think they should do it. I think there is a right way to do it that doesn't conflict with the actual 2025 season, because this season just needs to be about this upcoming season. All right, that should be it. I'm going to try to... One show I will do this summer is I kind of want to touch on the importance of this upcoming season for ASU. Just because I think having two 10-ish win seasons in a row, that's going to be really important for kind of locking in some fans who were late to the party last year, because I mean, I've mentioned that UCF game a bunch. Like, it was a November game. ASU was entered that game 6-2, and it was probably 75% full. And that shows that, a lot of people were very late to the party. I'm not talking about the people who watch the show. I'm talking about the casual fans, right? The fans that really make up that make it the difference in deciding what a fan base is. And so I think that this year, if let's say you go 10-2 this year, maybe you win the Big 12, maybe you don't even make, but if you just go 10-2, that's going to capture a lot of fans who were casuals, and it will legitimize ASU more as a program. So I kind of want to go into what are expectations, what this year means, and stuff like that. I don't know if that'll be the next episode, but it'll be sometime in July. So how's that? All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. And as always, go Sun Devils.